Welcome to TMZ Live. Harvey Levin here.
I'm Elex Michaelson, filling in for Charles.
Thank you for doing this again.
Good to be back with you.
This is something that we have not talked about out loud, but we're going to do today. So Kim Kardashian is in the middle of a really nasty custody war, ignited by Kanye West.
And his behavior.
And his behavior. And it's not even so much about the anti-Semitism, about the racism. It's not about that.
It's not about that.
It's not about that.
Okay.
It's about what he is doing when the children are around. Notably, what happened a week or so ago when he brought North into a studio and had her record a song with Diddy, where the Tate brothers came in, and Kim pulled North away because she said it was a safety risk.
Yeah.
And she's in a position where, you know, what does she do? Kanye West is off the rails right now. He's declared war on her, said the man makes the decision, said that called the Kardashians sex traffickers. He is off the rails.
But legally, he still has joint custody with her, right?
He does indeed. And now the question, what does she do? My intel is that she's resistant to go into court because if she goes to court and asks the judge to strip him of legal and or physical custody, it will trigger him, and God knows what he'll do then. And so, does she do nothing? Does she do that? Does she try to get supervised visitation? Good luck with a supervised visitation person saying, Kanye, don't do that.
Yeah.
Good luck on that.
But there's a risk of doing nothing, which is something you talked about with Dr. Phil, right?
Yeah, Dr. Phil is on our Two Angry Men podcast, which just dropped today. And we talked about this. Shockingly, Kim could get in trouble for doing nothing.
What we do not want is for these children to wind up in foster care because that system is broken. And what will happen with these kids, and you think, well, with this kind of money, they're not going to wind up in foster care. That's wrong. If DCF gets involved and thinks one parent is not reacting and the other parent is unstable, they will take them. Now, they're likely to put them with a family member rather than strangers, but you don't want these children hung out to dry.
But that's really shocking. I mean, the idea that Kim Kardashian, who loves these kids, who's dealing with a mentally ill ex-husband who is off the rails, could actually lose custody by doing nothing, even though she loves them. That's breathtaking.
That is absolutely a possibility. And this isn't even a close call that she could lose custody of these children. I've not met Kanye. I've certainly not evaluated him. I cannot render an opinion on what his pathology is or is not. But the behavior that is observable is troubling.
Really shocking. Look, Kim loves these kids, and she is the primary caregiver. Is an understatement. She is 99% with these kids all the time. Kanye does not see these kids much at all. But when he does, there are issues, and he could do it just to annoy her or anger her. And now what Phil is saying is that if you have a parent who is doing something dangerous and the other parent doesn't react to it, then both parents are in jeopardy, which is stunning.
It is stunning, although it makes it a very easy call for Kim. She has to do what's in the best interest of those children, regardless of the impact it has on Kanye. You're right that Kanye is volatile. Her making legal maneuvers to get full custody of the kids could set him off and send him on a downward spiral where he goes absolutely insane on social media and maybe even makes the situation more dangerous. But she has to do it. It's not something that's a close call where she sort of is making a judgment call. She simply has to do it.
You wonder, like, what must go through her head, not only when she sees some of the statements that he makes about Jews and black people and the outfits that his wife would wear, all the rest of this, and then to think about her kids in that space. Does she think to herself, what did I do?
Yeah, I mean, she's got to think that. You know, and it's funny you say that because we talked about this on the podcast, and I raised the issue, you know, could a family law judge strip him of custody because he's racist, because he's anti-Semitic? And the answer is pretty clearly no. There are a lot of racists and anti-Semites who have kids, and you can't yank a kid from your custody because of your views. You can do it if it creates some kind of a danger.
And according to your reporting, North at least really loves Kanye.
She does. She does. And she wants to be a rapper, and he is giving her a platform and a microphone. And look, I mean, you know, he agreed not to release that song when Kim complained. And 2 days later, he said, screw it. And then he came out with a statement, the man makes the final decision. I feel for her. And she is, this would be the dictionary definition of rock in a hard place.
Yeah.
I mean, what does she do? Because if she goes to court and she says, I want to strip him of custody, there will be an explosion. And that's what she's dealing with.
Why is that her fault? Is the hard part.
It's not her fault. It's like, how does she react?
Right.
Hi, I'm Corey from Massachusetts. And, you know, this is all just really sad to see. And at this point, my main concern is just about the kids. We all know there's probably more details all around that we're not privy to. So I'm just worried about the kids, really.
What do you do? I mean, if you were Kim, what would you do?
I really don't know. Pray the system helps her out.
No, that's all. Praying ain't going to do nothing.
Yeah, and the system, unfortunately, has not helped a lot of people out over the years.
No,
yeah.
I mean, it's one of those impossible situations.
So that's serious stuff. This next story, not quite as serious. Nikki Glaser, yesterday we talked about, she's on the Goop podcast with Gwyneth Paltrow. There was so much goop that came out of that.
It was good.
We're talking more about it.
It was good.
Including Nikki Glaser admitting that she went on Raya and tried to get with Gwyneth Paltrow's ex, Ben Affleck. Take a listen.
Even though you wanted to boyfriend on Raya, or her husband. Sorry,
Wait, which one was that?
Ben Affleck.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I definitely, when I used to be on Raya and he would come across very concentrated check mark, yes, and like never getting it back.
What I'm shocked about is I thought people on Raya aren't supposed to say who is on Raya.
That's the whole point. That you're with other celebrities, right?
Yes, it's supposed to be kept secret, and then Nikki's just spilling all of this, and she also went to go on how she was denied from Andrew Garfield. And it's like, stop saying that you're getting denied by all these men, Nikki. Like, that's not a good look.
No, but she's, Nikki Glaser is a hot commodity. She's beautiful, she's incredibly successful.
She said they all denied her before she went to go to her plastic surgeon. So I would like
Wait a
to
minute,
see...
did she say that?
Yeah, she was like, this all happened before I went to Dr. Diamond and I got all my work done. So she also, it was before all that. So maybe now she gets back on it, she'll have better luck.
No, but now she's got a boyfriend.
Yeah, but she could potentially do the open relationship thing because she's given him the green light, which was our story yesterday.
I know, but she said it was him that would have the open relationship.
She didn't want it for herself.
That's right.
But maybe, yeah, but clearly there's some guys she's got some unresolved issues with.
But you know what I love? She's telling this to Gwyneth. Gwyneth used to date Ben Affleck back in the day. So Gwyneth's sitting there is like, I got him. Sorry about your luck, kid, but like, I was able to have him.
Is that what did she rub her nose in it?
No, but I don't know. She should have took that chance too, to be like, I got him. It has to be a little bit pathetic to be you that you can't get the man that I like used to date and now I don't even want anymore.
Hi, I'm Vanessa from New Jersey. You know, Gwyneth really took this in stride, but I think it's largely because dating in Hollywood is highly incestuous. It's kind of like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, but on steroids. And I mean, to Nikki's credit, she stood 10 toes down, you know, so I got to tip my hat to her. But I do wonder if the two of them were close friends, would this have gone down totally different?
If the two of who? Nikki and Gwyneth?
Yes. I feel like it would be a lot more spicy in that studio if they were.
I thought it was pretty spicy.
Yeah.
I mean, she was talking about 3 ways and all sorts of things, so I thought it was pretty interesting.
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or 1 degree of Ben Affleck in this case.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to take a break. When we come back, there is a censure motion afoot in Washington, D.C. for something that Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett said about Governor Greg Abbott. She made a joke about his disability. We are going to bring a congressman on who seems to be down with a resolution like that. But the question, what about what the president has said about disabled people? Welcome back to TMZ Live. So there is a censure motion afoot in Washington, D.C. over a comment that Representative Jasmine Crockett made about Texas Governor Abbott. Governor Abbott is confined to a wheelchair. He suffered really tragic accident. I believe a tree fell on him, actually, when he was running.
Many years ago.
And he is confined to a wheelchair. This is what she said that may have triggered this motion.
We in these hot-ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot-ass mess, honey. So yes.
Those comments at the Human Rights Campaign in Southern California this past weekend. Crockett tweeting about it now. Here's what she says. I wasn't thinking about the governor's condition. I was thinking about the planes, trains, and automobiles he used to transfer migrants into communities led by black mayors, deliberately stoking tension and fear among the most vulnerable.
That's a hard one to swallow.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it just seems like that would be remarkably coincidental if she was really referring to that. But she said she was.
So now one member of Texas in the House, a Republican, is trying to censure Crockett. That is Congressman Randy Weber. Representative Keith Self is somebody who supports that motion. The congressman joins us now. Congressman, thanks so much for being here. Why is it important to censure Congresswoman Crockett?
Well, first of all, she is just a bully. That's all there is to it. She's trying to explain it away. She can't. And frankly, I'm not sure I support the censure because I frankly want AOC and Crockett to run for president in 2028. So let's just lay it out. If the Democrat Party is going to commit suicide, maybe they'll do it with AOC and Crockett. Maybe they'll just take the whole party down.
Well, if I'm kind of picking up what you're putting down, you think she crossed the line, whether you want to censure her or not, with the comment because you're saying she's a bully.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This was out of bounds. Look, I've heard Greg Abbott tell people personally that in self-deprecation, he said, how slow was I running for a tree to hit me when it's falling? But he's allowed to do that. That's self-deprivation. But I take great umbrage to someone disrespecting our disabled folks, whether it be the governor of Texas or whether it be the man on the street who has a disability. That's not something we do in America today. She's picking on the wrong man, too. She's picking on Greg Abbott. He's heard it all, and he can defend himself.
Well, if the issue, though, is picking on disabled people, what about this?
Or now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said.
So that was Donald Trump talking about Sergei Kavaleski, who is a New York Times reporter who is disabled, and Donald Trump was clearly mocking him. What's the difference?
I am going to address what Crockett said as my colleague in Congress. We are addressing the censure movement, the censure that a member of Texas delegation is going to put on the floor. This is not right, regardless of who does it. We've established that in America, and I will stand on that position that our disabled folks do not deserve to be mocked.
What about losing the high ground when the leader of your party does something like that?
I'm not losing the high ground. That's a rhetorical question. I'm not going to go there because I am going to stand that we do not mock people with disabilities. That's my stance. That's my stance against Crockett. And I think that whether I vote for the censure or not, I'll go back to the fact that the Democrat Party now has AOC and Crockett as the two coming faces, the future faces of the Democrat Party. That's the point here.
But Donald Trump is the face of the Republican Party right now. So was it wrong when he did that, just like it's wrong when Jasmine Crockett did what she did?
Once more, I'm going to address Crockett and what she did against Greg Abbott. I'm not going to address any hypotheticals beyond that.
Not a hypothetical. It actually happened.
You can make your comparisons. I'm talking about Crockett. I was told we were going to come on this show to discuss Crockett. That's what I'm prepared to do.
Okay. We also talked about the possibility of discussing what happened with the Signal app and the fact that Jeffrey Goldberg was somehow invited into this group to see attack plans of what was happening in terms of the Houthis. I'm curious your reaction to what happened there and what you think should be Congress's role at potentially looking into what happened there.
First of all, I've taken part in those discussions in the NSC and the White House Situation Room. They are vital when we send young Americans in harm's way to kill people. And I will tell you, this should have happened. It did happen on a encrypted end-to-end communication system. And Mike Waltz has taken responsibility for Goldberg being in this chat. He's done the honorable thing. He said, I did it. But at the same time, we got to look at the information that was in the chat. When we look at FA-18's takeoff times, that does not rise to the level of routes, of weapons packages on those planes, of routes to the targets, of time on target for the aircraft, actual target locations. None of that was in the chat, and that's why I don't believe there was truly classified information. Sensitive, yes. Classified, no.
You know, one of the things that came out last night was one of the members who was on that chat was at the Kremlin and maybe even with Putin because he was there until 1:30 in the morning. And this, the text exchange occurred about an hour and a half before that. Signal can be compromised. I was kind of stunned at that. I'm wondering what your reaction was.
Well, I hadn't heard that before, but I'm sure they were in a separate room, hopefully a soundproof room. But if not, the algorithm that Signal uses, you have to kind of know the algorithm or you have to be able to brute force break it in order to get into it. So I doubt that it happened real time because they would have had to have advanced information to know that it was going to happen. I doubt it happened, but like I say, I just heard that for the first time.
We really appreciate you coming on. This is a tough subject, obviously, when there's a screw-up like this. So, so thank you very much. We really appreciate the time.
You bet. Thank you.
Thanks, Congressman. You know, the one thing that I am kind of stunned at is, you know who is partly responsible for investigating this, right?
Who is that?
Mike Waltz.
Right.
Which I found kind of...
The question is, why was he in the phone? And you would think, does that mean that Mike Waltz had been leaking to Jeffrey Goldberg information on Signal before, why his number would be there in the first place?
I was thinking about that all last night because Mike Waltz railed on Jeffrey Goldberg, calling him scum, calling him
hoax and everything else.
Why is Jeffrey Goldberg in Mike Waltz's phone?
Right. And the U.S. Trade Representative, by the way, has the initials JG. So that might have been the person they thought it was. They thought it was the U.S. Trade Representative.
But why
JG.
why is Jeffrey Goldberg in his phone?
The most logical explanation would be that they've talked and he used that app.
He said he's never talked to him before.
To leak him information.
He said he's never talked to him before.
So something there doesn't add up.
Okay, we are going to take a break. When we come back,
the new trailer for the film. Well, so far, all we've known about the film Rust is that Alec Baldwin shot and killed his cinematographer behind the scenes when making it. But we haven't actually seen any trailers of what the product looks like.
Because they finished the movie.
Yeah, we know it's a Western. We know in a Western there's lots of shooting, obviously. But now we're getting our first look at the trailer.
So we got to say, though, how do you promote this movie knowing the backdrop? Do you lean into the intrigue of it all? Do you stay away from it? I mean, there are choices you make here.
And clearly they've made a choice.
The only order that exists in this world is the order we impose. If a man loses sight of that, he's got nothing.
Some things in this life you can't get back, I reckon.
Heaven ain't waiting on neither one of us.
Some things in this life you can't get back, I reckon.
Get back, I reckon.
Like shooting and killing the cinematographer.
No. It's not fair to... I mean, that's the intimation.
But that's the choice you make. That's the line of him that you have there on the trailer. You could pick any line from the movie.
They so leaned into this.
I mean, it's a Western movie, guys. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a lot of violence and shooting. And I mean, to me, I watched the trailer. Obviously, terrible what happened to her. But the movie looks good. Like, I actually am interested in seeing this movie.
Are you interested because of what you know already?
No, I'm interested because, honestly, the trailer just makes it look like a pretty good Western movie. Obviously, I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be tuning in just to see if, because we obviously all know of the scene he shot in the church, and I'm curious as just a viewer just to see if they're going to be including that in the final.
But see, then you are interested in the backdrop of this. I mean,
well, I'm interested in the backdrop, but I think even people who don't know the background of like what happened here will see this trailer and be like, oh, it looks like a good movie.
Helena Hutchins is listed as the cinematographer. Bianca Klein stepped in as the cinematographer afterwards. Helena's husband also listed as an EP on the film.
Well, the EP role that the husband got was part of the settlement against Alec Baldwin and the company that made the movie. But I just find it really interesting because you're right. I mean, look, those lines telegraph something, and it feels like we are all talking about the tragedy on set. I mean, I get it that they're pushing a movie, and maybe this is the way to push a movie, but man, they make you remember.
Is there part of you that thought that this movie would never come out?
I thought so at first, but then I know they finished it. I didn't think they'd finish filming.
Yeah.
And when they did, I mean, it seemed like, yeah, they're going to. What's going to be fascinating is this is going to be in theaters in May.
May 2nd.
So they're already pushing it, and we're still in March. So they're going to be pushing they're pushing this for a month, and I'm going to be fascinated to know if this tragedy translates into box office.
And because if it was like a streaming film, they could hide how it does better. Right. But in the box office, you get a number.
Right.
And so we're going to know if this is a big number or a small number.
You guys also mentioned, though, her husband is the EP of it. So does that make you think, like, hey, if the husband's on board with doing the movie, then why not?
But her parents are not.
Well, no. But the husband's complicated because even after the husband took the EP role, he seemed to side with the prosecutor in the manslaughter case against Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
So even though he took the role as part of a settlement, it seemed like there was still bad blood.
And her parents are represented by Gloria Allred, and they're against a lot of this. So there's clearly some division within the family.
It will be interesting, really interesting, like you said, to see how this movie does.
Hi, it's Gabriela from California. This movie is definitely going to get people talking, whether people watch for the Western action or just for sheer curiosity. After all that drama, Rest is finally making its way to the screen. The show must go on.
You want to see it?
Absolutely. Out of sheer curiosity, though.
I just have a feeling this is going to do better than anybody expected.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to see it.
So we've been talking about this at TMZ now for, it seems like, a year.
This is your obsession, it seems.
It ain't my obsession. But that Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez are engaged. We told you that they are now, they've set a wedding date. They're going to get married. It looks like in August, looks like in Venice. Either on land or on sea, and we have a partial guest list.
Yeah. So here,
by the way, shockingly, there are celebrities.
Yeah. So we got Eva Longoria, we've got Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom. There's Oprah and her bestie Gayle King. We've got Kris Jenner, of course, and her daughter Kim Kardashian.
I think it's Kim Kardashian and her mother, Kris Jenner.
I don't know. I mean, you don't get Kim Kardashian without Kris Jenner, though, right? There's Jewel, and then Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner are on the list. Unclear if her father is on the list.
See, that's the most fascinating part of this. Is Donald Trump going to get invited to this? Because Jeff Bezos made a pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago. He is sucking up to Trump.
He changed the editorial page of the Washington Post.
Changed the editorial page. So are they going to snub him by not inviting him, especially if Ivanka gets invited? Or are they going to invite him thinking, he won't come? Or will he come? And if he comes, then you're going to have a lot of Democrat celebrities who are there, and that interaction is going to be really interesting.
He loves showing up to high-profile events. He keeps doing it with all these different sporting events.
If he gets invited, I think he's going to go.
Yeah,
I think he's going to go.
I mean, it'd be quite a party.
And they went to the inauguration.
Right.
They went to the inauguration.
Well, and who will forget what she was wearing to the inauguration? Quite a thing.
Exactly.
It was hard to notice anybody else going to the inauguration.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back,
Joe Rogan picks a side in the Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively war. Which team is he on? We'll tell you.
Welcome back to TMZ Live. So Joe Rogan has taken a position on Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni. As you know, lawsuit, countersuit, countersuit. They have gone back and forth. We have said all along, this is a PR war. Joe Rogan has weighed in, and he has a position.
Yeah, he's on his podcast with Brendan Schaub, who's a former UFC fighter, podcaster. They both discussed it.
You've been following the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively thing?
Bro, Blake Lively, talk about ruin your reputation, and Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, they up. Ryan's trying to get out of it now. He's trying to get out of the lawsuit, and they're like, you are a key part of this.
This is what you get, though. This is what you get. You're trying to ruin a guy's livelihood by using the Me Too movement?
Because they were trying to take over the movie.
Yeah.
They were trying to take over the movie and the whole franchise.
He posted the receipts.
Oh,
he's like, remember our
crazy.
tech exchange?
How about she told him to come into the dressing room while she was breastfeeding? And then part of the complaint was that he came into the dressing room while I was breastfeeding. Like, you literally have a text exchange back and forth. They just never thought that anybody was going to come out with the receipts.
Because no one's ever done it, because everyone usually just bows down.
Because everyone's scared.
Joe Rogan is a really curious guy, and he's a good interviewer. I am shocked that he is in the weeds on this story. I don't know why.
Seems like he's watching your show.
Well, he's reading something because he knows this case. I mean, I don't know why I didn't think Joe Rogan gave a crap about it, but he seems to know this story really well.
Clearly a lot of people do based off the traffic on your site.
Well, that's true.
It's kind of like the new Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp, where people take a hard side. But the thing is I don't think this case is that clear cut. I know people have strong views about it, but if you actually read all the documents from both Blake's side and Justin's side,
which almost no one does.
True, but even for example, remember we got that footage of the dancing scene where they both had different takes on what that dancing scene meant to them and how they felt. You could see both sides. You could watch the video and see, okay, I can see how Justin would feel that way. And then you could watch it again and be like, oh, I can see how Blake would feel that as well. So it's not that clear cut. It's kind of like, how do you discredit someone's feelings, And remember, Blake did say that she has a couple other people that were involved in the cast that also felt like Justin, kind of sexually harassed them as well. So, when you take everything in, it's not that clear cut.
So, Charlie, have you ever heard of Rashomon?
No. Is that a food?
No, it's not a food. That's ramen. Rashomon was a Japanese director who did movies where he would show the way people in the same scene viewed that scene. And depending on where they stood and what their sensibilities were, they would see it all very differently. And that's the way he would shoot it. He's really interesting. That's what this is. That you've got, like you said, the dancing scene. They each perceive it very differently. And it doesn't necessarily mean one person is right and one person is wrong, but the perceptions are radically different. And it's left to the audience to decide which side they believe in most. And I think the audience so far, at least at this point, is viewing it in Justin Baldoni's favor. The thing that is the most surprising to me is how Ryan Reynolds got dragged into this. And
he's a part of it. It seems like for good reason,
But people didn't know that at first, and it seemed like it was really just Blake versus... Yeah. But now, Ryan Reynolds is in thick
Right. And he seemed to be one of the coolest, smartest, funniest, most charming people in all of Hollywood who everybody loved. And now it feels like there's this whole thing. Even when he was on the SNL 50th anniversary, they joked about it, and that was the only time we've seen him publicly. But Ryan Reynolds' stock seems to have gone way down.
It has, and that's what's shocking to me.
Hi, I'm Nikki from Chicago, and I disagree. I think it is pretty clear-cut. I think that as somebody who read all the documents, I know you said not a lot of people did, but I did. I think that Ryan and Blake started this war and are trying to gain power from an innocent, kind man. I've spent time with Justin. He's great. And this isn't Gossip Girl. Being famous doesn't excuse you from the consequences of your own actions. People aren't going to be believed because of what she did, and she needs to be held accountable. This is BS.
Shots fired. Wow.
Yeah, I've known Justin for about a decade, and the version of him that seems to be coming out as we learn more seems more in line with the version of him that I knew than the initial complaint about him.
Which is?
Which is a good guy who may be getting dragged unfairly.
Okay, well, let's move on.
So, Lady Gaga is out with her new album called Mayhem, and there's a logo for it that looks very similar.
Super similar.
Very, very similar to a surf company, which is also called Mayhem. It's from the company Lost. You see their clothing there on the right. You see Lady Gaga's clothing on the left. Hard to distinguish between the two.
Which then triggers a lawsuit for trademark infringement, which means that if they are similar enough that they could cause confusion in the marketplace, and look at that. If you change the colors and you just made them both orange or both black, they're pretty similar.
But Lady Gaga's attorney says, not at all. Here's the statement, basically defending what they did, saying it's disappointing but hardly surprising that someone is now attempting to capitalize on her success with a baseless lawsuit over the name Mayhem. This is nothing more than an opportunistic and meritless abuse of the legal system.
I just saw those. I saw those garments, and I gotta say they look kind of similar to me.
Yeah, I mean, if this goes to a jury trial,
it will never go to a jury trial. This will never go to a jury trial.
It feels like Gaga's, even though that statement came out, is going to have to pay a little bit of money and move on from this thing, right?
She's going to settle.
But then you think about some of those trademark things we've seen on songs, right? And like how the Marvin Gaye estate got paid on that.
Because they thought they'd win, and they wouldn't. They didn't.
I definitely get what the clothing company means here. There's no doubt a resemblance. But at the same time, there's no way that Lady Gaga herself saw this logo and thought, you know what, I want to put that on my album. If someone did do that, it had to have been a member of her team. So I don't think she should be the fall guy here. It should be the person.
But it's her company. But it's her company.
Okay, but she's not looking over everyone who's doing the merchandise and putting the logo on T-shirts.
But it's her company.
But then she still has to pay for it.
It's her company.
Right?
I mean, come on, Jacob.
Well, even if it's her company, I think then they should have a fall guy in this situation. I don't think...
Jacob, first off, I like the LA hat New York. But secondly, if you did something wrong working for Harvey's company, do you think you would take the blame or would Harvey be responsible for it?
I mean, come on.
Well, okay, then maybe Harvey would get slapped on the wrist. But see, if I were in Harvey's position, I'd come out and say, I didn't do anything wrong here. There's this guy, Jacob, who works for me.
Oh, you want me to...
okay,
so you want me to throw you under the bus is what you're saying.
Yeah, if I were in that position, I would happily throw someone under the bus to clear my name because I wouldn't want to be viewed as someone who's stealing someone else's IP.
Hi, I'm Sarah from Chicago, and I think that if you know nothing of the surf brand and you know nothing of the Lady Gaga tour, but you were to see these two images together, you would think that they were somehow involved with each other. Lady Gaga is using a very, very similar image of a copyrighted brand for her tour. If I were Lady Gaga and I were paying a creative team to do this and they completely plagiarized and put me at risk for a lawsuit, I would fire that team and then get a new creative team. But she's not doing that because this is her shtick. She is known. This is not the first, second, or fifth time that she has copied smaller artists and then said, but it's not the same. I used cobalt blue instead of royal blue. It's like, it is the same, Stephanie. You copy.
Fair point. Fair point. By the way, and it doesn't matter if the creative team knew or didn't know. Right. What matters is what it looks like. Okay, we got to take a break. When we come back.
Chappell Roan is in love. We learned about her new relationship and why she's worried about it, though, for the future. Welcome back to TMZ Live. Elex Michaelson here with Harvey Levin. So Chappell Roan is on the Call Her Daddy podcast with Alex Cooper, talking about the fact that she has been in a relationship, a serious relationship, for some 6 months. It's somebody that she met before she got famous, wouldn't necessarily trust dating right now. Here's some of what she said about it.
Are you single?
No.
You're lying. No, you're lying. You're lying to me right now. Chappell? How long?
6 months.
Is it casual?
No.
Serious?
It's serious.
Are you still close with your friends from back home?
Yeah, I am. They're really awesome. We have such different lives. They are, a lot of them are married with children. I don't know when that's going to happen for me. Like, I don't know when that is realistic, if ever. So,
do you want that?
Like, get married and I don't know. Part of me is like, is it even going to be legal to marry my wife one day, you know?
So I think that's kind of interesting because she didn't just limit it to, is it going to be legal? She said, I don't know if it's in my future. So I think she's kind of mixing two things up.
Yeah.
But it's fair to ask about gay marriage.
Do you think so, really?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. The Supreme Court, I think it's a toss-up. I think it's absolutely a toss-up.
I don't read it the same way.
The other thing I thought was interesting is she mentioned how now that she's famous, it isn't hard dating. I would think it'd be the other way around because you almost have to really filter the people that are trying to date you because what are their actual intentions? Are they trying to get with you because of who you are, or do they genuinely want to date you?
But we don't know who it is. We have she didn't say who it was. And it's also interesting if she's really been dating for 6 months that they've been totally off the radar because nobody knew that, right?
It didn't show up with her to any public events or anything, as far as we know.
As far as we know. But she said it's serious. And if it's that serious, she could probably play this out and either get married or not get married before it goes to the Supreme Court because there's nothing before the court right now. So if she gets married, they're not going to revoke it if the court says there's no constitutional right. And the other thing too that you got to remember is even if the Supreme Court says there's no constitutional right, the individual states can say, yeah, it's fine.
And that's not going away here in California.
And that's not going away in California at all.
Hey, TMZ, I'm Matt in South Florida. And to start, I think Chappell Roan is probably the poster child for a celebrity that could keep something like this under wraps. She seems very low key and whatnot. But I do think you make a good point about marriage in her case because she's a lesbian and marriage isn't a judgment. It depends on what state she'd get married in, and if she chose to get married sooner rather than later, any state would have to honor that. So any state would have to honor the divorce either if she chose to get divorced. But that's another 50 steps down the road. But I do think her being in a relationship now, look, if it doesn't last, I wouldn't be opposed if she wanted to play switch hitter. I do think she's attractive. So.
Wow, my God. You were on such a good track there until the very end.
Good for him. Shoot a shot.
Okay,
I really don't think that there are 5 votes in the Supreme Court to overturn same-sex marriage.
I think it's a toss-up. I don't know what Amy Coney Barrett's going to do. Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know what Gorsuch is going to do. So it's too technical. Okay, we got to take a break. When we come back,
the real stuff. Joe Budden, naked with his neighbor and nuisance. The big story of the day.
Oh, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
And they got ring cam video to prove it. So remember, a couple months ago, Joe Budden went up to his neighbor's door, which is not a problem, except he was naked. And so he's getting sued by the neighbors. And it ain't just about nakedness. He apparently has been smoking weed in the common area. That's the ring cam, part of the ring cam.
Hello.
And his neighbor says Joe has just become a major nuisance in this complex, and they want money.
Joe Budden actually has one of the top-rated hip-hop podcasts, and they actually shoot the podcast in this building. And one of the complaints, aside from the nudity, is that the neighbors are saying they're making so many loud noises, gunshots, and it's really everything that you hear on the Joe Budden podcast.
Well, but this is kind of BS. That my understanding is that the noise from the podcast is in the middle of the day, and it's like 8 minutes long. Sort of like, there's construction next door. As long as they do it, during normal business hours.
That's definitely a valid point, but the neighbors actually said they confronted Joe and asked him just to tone it down, and they're claiming that he doubled down and actually blew weed smoke towards their door where their daughter is.
Okay, but he does not have to tone it down. It's sort of like a neighbor saying, can you stop that construction? It's really loud. I want to go to sleep, but I work overnight. It's sort of like tough.
But isn't there some value in trying to be a good neighbor and work together and not just literally blow smoke in somebody's face?
Yes.
I'm Tiffany from Atlanta, Georgia. I understand Joe Budden because he did mention on his podcast that he does have a sleepwalking issue. So I understand that. But at the same time, I understand his neighbors because they are everyday working people. So they have to work and he has to work on his podcast. So hopefully they can work everything out.
Couldn't he rent a studio?
He could, but, he's a man's home is his castle.
If it's one of the biggest podcasts out there, you could also do that.
Man's home is his castle.
Yeah.
What else you guys want to talk about?
My name is Timothy Slater from San Jose, California, and I'm talking about the Kanye and Kim Kardashian situation. And Kanye seems to have some type of mental issues that he's going through, and this usually happens when he's doing an album rollout. And Kim doesn't have to take that anymore. She should have sole custody if she feels like it, because you can't just say whatever you want about somebody. There's action to your consequences.
But it's not up to her.
Yeah, I mean,
right? She can't determine that.
She is in such a tough position here. Well, she really is. I feel for her. One more.
Letitia from Dallas. And I tell you what, this Raya thing keeps pairing Nikki and Ben together. Now, she sees Ben and Ben sees her. He doesn't like the spotlight, so he says. But if he dates her, he knows he's going to end up in the spotlight because she's a comedian.
Hold on. He has dated lots of famous people: Jennifer Garner, Jennifer Lopez, Gwyneth Paltrow. So I don't get your point.
Comedians will take the smallest of things and put them on stage and have everybody laughing. He doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to take that chance. He already did it with Jennifer. He broke up with the love of his life. No, he's going to hard pass on that.
And to her point, she's doing that now, and she's never even really met him, just interacted with him on Raya.
Now I wonder if, no, she's got a boyfriend.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna start something. Okay, we're gonna take a break.
When we come back, check out what Matt Damon looks like as Odysseus. So we're getting our first look at what Matt Damon looks like as Odysseus. Look at how jacked he is.
Jeez, that's
with
Matt
the beard.
Damon.
That is Matt Damon. He's in a new Christopher Nolan film about perhaps the greatest story of all time, the greatest Greek tragedy. Zendaya is also in this movie, Anne Hathaway, Tom Holland. It's a big film. This is going to be a huge, huge thing.
So when was this supposedly set? What do you guess? Give me a year.
2,000 years ago, maybe?
Right. So where do they get an LA Fitness? I mean, how does that happen 2,000 years ago?
They used to be jacked. They probably ate real food. No preservatives. That's the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. diet, baby. Right? That's what he looks like.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. We will see you tomorrow.
Bye.